In recent months, the relationship between Niger and France has experienced tensions that have garnered attention on the international stage. These tensions have been driven by disagreements over security strategies, allegations of misconduct, and differing perspectives on foreign military presence. However, the president of Niger, Abdourahamane Tchiani, is not willing to back down on his quest to break all ties with the French. He is determined. In a turn of events, he has decided to land the French with another blow. So, in today's video, we will discuss more on this topic. But before we continue, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel so you never miss out on all that is happening in Africa. Let's delve right in. Niger has confirmed one of the world's biggest uranium mines has returned to public control after revoking the operating license of French nuclear fuel producer Orano. In a decision that underscored tensions between France and the military regime in the West African nation, the company said last week that it had been barred from the Abdourahamane mine in northern Niger. The government had not reacted before releasing a statement last week saying the Abdourahamane mine had returned to the public domain of the state. The license was revoked because, according to the justification, Orano never honored its commitments despite receiving 2 formal notices from the Mines Ministry in February 2022 and March of this year. It is important to note that in January, the self-appointed military government of Niger ordered an examination of the mining industry and temporarily halted the issuance of new mining licenses. The ministry's January 22nd statement did not give a rationale for the license suspension. Requests for comments from the Minister of Mines were not answered. Niger is the 7th largest producer of uranium, the radioactive metal used as fuel for nuclear energy, in the world and possesses the highest grade uranium ores on the continent. The French state-owned company Orano operated a single significant uranium mining operation in the country's north. Despite the July coup of last year, activities went on. There are also several artisanal gold miners throughout the nation. On Thursday, Orano announced that it had taken note of Abdourahamane SA, a subsidiary, withdrawing its license. Orano claims that the action was taken even though activities at the location had recently resumed and been completed by official directives. In addition, the company stated that it reserved the right to challenge the ruling in domestic or foreign courts and was prepared to keep open all channels of communication with the authorities. Take note that the Abdourahamane mine sits on an estimated 200,000 tons of uranium used for nuclear power and weapons. But development was frozen after the collapse in world uranium prices following the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. Niger's military leaders have vowed to evaluate mining concessions throughout the nation since seizing power, as part of their emphasis on maintaining national sovereignty. In addition, they severed their connections with France, a longtime ally and former colonial power, and shifted their focus to Russia, which is looking to increase its influence in the area. According to figures from the atomic organization Euratom, Niger provided almost 25% of the natural uranium supplied to European nuclear power plants in 2022. French companies have been exploiting resources, underpaying local labor, evading taxes, involved in capital flight, and money laundering. Also, they did this with the help of the puppet leaders they put in place. With the coming of the alliance of Sahel states, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have become more powerful and have a common goal. This alliance binds the signatories to assist one another, including militarily, in the event of an attack on any one of them. If we are keen on observing, we will discover that the decisions taken in these 3 countries are quite similar. For example, Captain Ibrahim Traoré revoked the mining permits of all foreign businesses, including those from Russia last year. Captain Ibrahim Traoré was unable to comprehend Burkina Faso's continued status as one of the world's poorest countries, even with substantial gold deposits. He was aware that France, Burkina Faso's former colonial power, contributed to the country's inability to develop an independent gold industry by enforcing unfair trade agreements on the country during and after its independence, which ensured that France profited disproportionately from Burkina Faso's gold resources. These 3 countries are showing us what the likes of Muammar Gaddafi and Patrice Lumumba meant by unified Africa. The new president of Senegal, Bassirou Faye, is gradually joining the train. The military regime in Niger plans to restructure the mining industry to give the government the financial resources to function more independently. This will reduce the state's reliance on outside sources of funding like aid and provide additional revenue for government operations and essential services in a wider sense. By demanding more from its mineral resources, the military leaders aim to not only mitigate the financial fallout from sanctions, but also send a signal that the country is willing to assert its economic sovereignty, even if it means reshaping its relationship with Western powers. Some analysts also view this move as a form of retaliation against Western sanctions, portraying it as Niger's way of asserting independence and reclaiming control over its economic destiny. However, by revoking the operating license of French nuclear producer Orano, Niger may encounter difficulties like possible opposition from current mining players or international surveillance, but experts are assured that its success will depend on how well the mining industry is managed and how well it is implemented. France will respect Niger's sovereign right to manage its resources as it deems fit. At this point, they do not have a choice. They might have used their soldiers to stop the military government, but December marked the end of the disengagement process of French forces in Niger. As Niger is blocking France and other Western powers from their country and resources, Russia is also gaining ground. Recent years have seen a rise in Russian influence throughout Africa, positioning the continent at the center of the expanding geopolitical rivalry between the White House and the Kremlin. Mali, for example, has in recent years become one of Russia's closest African allies, with the Wagner Group mercenary force deploying there to fight jihadist insurgents. According to U.S. authorities, Russia's employment of mercenaries, disinformation campaigns, and attempts to create a multipolar world order have exacerbated conflict and threatened democratic stability across the continent. But is that the case? In May, Russian military personnel entered an air base in Niger that was hosting U.S. troops, a move that followed a decision by Niger's military leaders to expel U.S. forces. The West African nation, which up until a coup last year had been a crucial ally for Washington's fight against insurgents, who have terminated hundreds of people and displaced millions more, was urged by its military officials to remove the almost 1,000 American military personnel. According to some analysts, Moscow's growing aspirations to foster anti-Western sentiment and establish itself as an ally of African nations might make the continent a flashpoint in the global geopolitical rivalry between Russia and the West. They caution that Africa's hopes for democracy are being undermined by Russia's support of authoritarian regimes, including several coups in recent years. From an economic perspective, Russia's fascination with the continent's abundant resources will impact significant supply chains, particularly those involving some of the key technologies driving the worldwide movement towards sustainable energy. However, Africa's access to vital Russian commodities has been challenged by the continued aftermath of the Ukrainian war, indicating impending problems with food and energy security. At this point, a lot of Africans have made their choices, and they know the allies they want. France is not one of them. Some foreign nations are alarmed by Russia's growing influence in Africa, while others see possible advantages. Many analysts believe that China is unlikely to help contain Russia, since it is often indifferent to the domestic political affairs of its allies. Both nations want to push the West aside, so they may live together on the continent and in the face of Western sanctions. Russia's reliance on China has only increased. Living and being an ally to Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali does not make them controllers over the resources of these countries. We can see this from the likes of Ibrahim Traoré, who is on good terms with Russia but still suspended the gold license of Norgold. Proofs that these countries know what they want and are not just following Russia and China blindly. However, competition over Africa's resources could eventually become a fault line between Beijing and Moscow. China's emphasis on maintaining stability above all else could also conflict with Russia's attempts to foment instability. Russia's aggression, however, is seen by the US and the EU as a danger to the stability of Africa. The United States has sanctioned several African people and organizations for their ties to the Wagner Group, and they have directly placed penalties on the Wagner Group. American officials have retaliated against African nations that try to get around Western sanctions on Russian commodities. Concerns have been voiced about the Niger's revoking of the French license, but it's also a significant step forward. It gives people a place to talk about protocols, assess techniques, and create more thoughtful resource management plans. During this crucial time, transparency should be prioritized above all else. It may also involve stakeholders and create a framework that safeguards the environment and people while using resources to generate long-term prosperity. The success of this major uranium mine that Niger has reclaimed will depend on mutual trust, inclusivity, and a shared commitment to Niger's sustainable future. Do you think the reclamation of this mine will go a long way to boost Niger's economy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the new tourist channel. Turn on notifications too so you get notified whenever we upload videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video.